Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dad Bods and Bad Attitudes. We are your hosts. I'm Christopher Samella. He's Mark Davis, just a couple of middle aged white guys with some guitars, dad bods, bad attitudes, and a whole lot of fire for what's going on in the world. And we're joined today by a very special guest. I'm going to turn it over to my partner, Mark, who's going to introduce our special guest.
All right, so this one is special, y'all. So I got a guy with me today that's been swinging harder than most elected officials out there, and he's kind of winning the heart of the country. And I just want to say, this is big time for me. This is like meeting my idol there, and we both have the red beards, and I feel like I'm kind of interviewing a better looking version of myself, to be honest. And right here with me we have Mr. Jolly Good Ginger. How is it going?
Well, that's a hell of an introduction. I've never been told I'm good looking, but I'll take it today, man.
Yeah.
You are a beautiful man. I mean, I literally feel
Jolly, you can't live it down now.
every time I watch your videos, and I don't want to get too much of like a Beatles fan here, but I feel better. I feel better about
I
myself,
I
and
appreciate that.
because a lot of, I kind of started this movement, what I'm doing here in Florida, and I was just kind of just shouting out into the void, and I was hoping that somebody out there could hear me, like somebody has to feel what I'm feeling, like when Zelensky was made fun of in the Oval Office originally. That was awful, right? And there's just been it's been moving harder and harder towards fascism, and I was just
Mhm.
screaming out there like, we need to get this fixed. And it's just so comforting to hear and see people out there like you, Jolly, that look like me, that talk like me, and are seeing like the fascism and the racism. So anyway, for anybody that's not familiar with you, more so they probably aren't familiar with me, but kind of talk a little bit about yourself, Jolly, and what got you fired up to get into this fight.
I mean, listen, first of all, things just happen. You kind of stumble through life and you just find yourself where you find yourself. If you'd have told me 10 years ago that I would be on social media with millions of followers, organizing protests, I might have believed the organizing protest part, but the rest of it would be strange to me. But you kind of, you stumble. And, I started speaking out as a teenager, kind of about the white supremacy and the racism that I dealt with in my hometown. And even then, I tell people this, even then, I didn't speak out because I'm trying to make a difference. I just discovered, like, oh shit, dude, we are racist. And so I
Mhm.
thought, if I told everybody else, hey, you guys know we're racist, they would be like, oh shit, dude, we're racist. But instead, they gaslit me. They're like, oh no, we don't do that. You're tripping. That doesn't happen. I'm like, bro, we live in the same neighborhood, go to central. We've been friends our whole life. We all do the same activities. I'm telling you, yes, we are. And
Mhm.
that pissed me off. Like in real life, just pissed me off. And then I really got more or less pissed off. Like, you're not gonna gaslight me, dude. We're racist as fuck. And then, as I go through life and just and I again, I'm 42, so I don't want to like tell this whole big long story, but every time I've ever found myself involved in something, just because I'm pissed off. And with this whole thing we're doing right now with this veteran protests and mobilizing veterans, I've really never made being a veteran the central part of my platform. It's always just been like, you don't got to, I don't believe you have to be a veteran. I don't believe you have to have uh, any kind of special status to speak out on something. You don't need
Mhm.
black friends to speak out against racism. You don't need gay friends to
Mhm.
speak out against homophobia. You don't need trans friends to speak out against transphobia. You don't need to be a veteran to speak out against National Guard presence on the ground. But I just got really pissed off. Like, God, this is wrong. And the way they're
Mhm.
using the military is wrong. And I got four people together, and there was five of us. And I was like, look, I don't know where this thing is going. I don't know how it ends. I don't know what we do when we get there. But I'm going out there and I'm going to scream. You guys with
Mhm.
me? And so we just did. When I got on the internet, I was 37 years old and made my first TikTok video. No bullshit. I did it because I was pissed off. So
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
guess really, I've just been pissed off for a really long fucking time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I,
well, I mean, you can see it, but and a lot of people say when I started blasting off on the internet, and I wasn't holding back. I would say the F word. I would say this, and I was just trying to rattles people's cages and wake them up and say, there's something wrong here. Now I'm 5 or 6 years behind you. You saw it, I saw your TED Talk. Well, I think you filmed that, what, 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago.
That's about
But
right. Yeah.
I think three. But anyway, it was super inspirational to see somebody up there, that looks like me, that is standing up for people that are marginalized. And you
Hmm.
saw it way back then where it was headed, and that was before Trump 2.0. And I knew when Trump 2.0 got elected, and my dumbass, I thought maybe I could just turn off the TV. I'm not even going to listen to him. I'm going to ignore him, and I'm going to live on with my life. And obviously, that's impossible with somebody like Donald Trump. You can't avoid the asshole, right? But anyway, so then I just felt like I had to use my advantage as a white man with some resources and get loud out there for people that don't have a voice, because you can see it coming here. You can see that fascism marching here. You can see people getting more and more racist and angry, and getting rid of plurality. I mean, and so forth and so on. And that's why Chris and I started this show, is because of that march of fascism, and pointing it out and telling people enough is enough. This is the line in the sand.
Listen,
Yeah.
I felt, I mean, I saw what's happening now coming when I was 12, right? I mean, and I don't say that to say, oh, look at me, I'm Nostradamus. No, I'm just saying that being able to like look at what people are saying and what they're doing and to kind of extrapolate where this thing must inevitably go wasn't hard to do when I lived in the heart of Dixie. I
Hmm.
remember it was about 2000, I think 14, 2014. I had just gotten out of the army. I was in my new career, and there was this big fight over whether or not we should fly the Confederate flag over the South Carolina State building. Because there's a lot of people calling for it to be brought down, whatever, whatever. And I grew up with that flag in my front yard. I grew up, with that, everybody had that flag on the shirt and the bumper stickers and blah, 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 blah. And I promise I got a point to this rambling story. But um, when I was about 12 years old, and I was in school, we were learning how to debate. They were teaching us how to debate, and they broke us up, and they made me the leader of this side because I was the one that talked the most. And said, well, man, you're the leader of this debate side. And they said, should we fly the Confederate flag was the debate. And my side
Mm,
I was given the role of no. We have to debate no, you shouldn't fly it, which I low-key had felt that for a while at the time. This was my first time I had the opportunity to be able to say it publicly. And it looked like the teacher sided to me, not that I'm just voicing my own opinion here. And I went off. I went off in this debate about everything that was bad about the Confederate flag. Well, fast forward to 2014, when I was, how old was I again? I don't know, however old I was, 31. And there's this debate going on in the country as to whether or not we should fly the Confederate flag. Now, I had this debate in my sixth grade class, and I was 12, and now I'm 31 years old. And they were doing this ride. There was a bunch of motorcycles were getting together, and they were going to
mhm,
ride from, I forgot where we started. I cannot remember. We were riding to the Columbia State Building. I was like, well, I'm joining. Fuck it, I'm in. But at the time, I didn't have a motorcycle. I ride motorcycles, but I didn't have a motorcycle. I had a truck. So if you put up in a vehicle, they told you could ride in the back. There's a bunch of I rode my truck in the back, and I had American flag in the back of it. We were protesting the Confederate flag. When we got started, probably had 400 motorcycles or so.
wow.
And we were going, bunch of motorcycles and us on back. And it was a ride to the Columbia State, to say, take down the Confederate flag. About halfway there, this car rode into the group of motorcycles, ran over two of them, and killed two people.
Mm,
Shit.
And I mean, it was a horrific scene. I witnessed it happen. Um, Motorcycles were engulfed in flames. This
holy.
this man and his wife that was on the bike that got hit. I mean, dead on the scene. And
Could
I
have been
remember
you.
could
You
have been
know,
AIDS. I
could have been
remember
anybody
riding
in there.
home. I remember riding home that day after the whole protest was over. Like this issue is so fucking serious to people that they're willing to ride their car into a group of motorcycles and murder people with this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a fucking bullshit fad, right? And I really started like putting into perspective all the things I heard growing up. And I even told my friends and family back then when that happened, I said, man, this country will go to war before it stops flying that flag.
Mm.
January 6th was the first day in American history that the Confederate flag was flown on the Capitol of the United States. So the Confederate Army didn't even achieve that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I say to people that MAGA is an extension of the Confederacy, I can draw a straight line from the Confederate States of America to make America great again. I don't have to take shortcuts. It's true. This has been coming since forever. This is the reckoning of America refusing to accept what America really is. It's the
So
false unity of it all.
let me ask you about that, because I think we kind of grew up a little similarly. Where I grew up in central Indiana, Kokomo,
Oh, yeah.
and super red, right? Everywhere in
Yep.
Indiana red, but central
Mhm.
Indiana, I mean, that's kind of where the Ku Klux Klan started, and it's as red as it gets. But my parents were super Christian, super strict, and it was kind of that MAGA household before you could really define MAGA. But I never really considered my parents as racist or as part of Confederacy. So but they are still 100% MAGA to this day, and I cannot convince them. There's nothing I can say to them that would ever change their mind. So how did they get looped into that Confederate or almost racist mindset when maybe they were kind of on the edge, or how does that whole mentality work?
Well, brother, your parents are racist. I'll tell you that first of all, and that's the hardest thing. That's the hardest thing for us to come to terms with. And I tell people this all the
Mhm.
time. Like one of the fucking most eye-opening moments in my life is I realized the people I love are racist. I was writing a book back in 2021. It's about three-quarters of the way done. I'll finish it one of these days. I named the book "I Love Racist," and it was meant to be grab your attention. The fact is, I hear white people say all the time, "I was raised around racists." No, brother, you was raised by them. Unless your parents were the anti-racist lead in the neighborhood, birds of a feather tend to flock together. And so, you can't be raised around racists if you weren't raised by them. And the fact is that silence is compliance in this world. And there's a lot of white America that silently didn't pick a side openly, silently didn't take a stance one way or the other openly,
Mm-hmm.
but the groundwork was there. I don't know if you remember when that white supremacist went to the top grocery store in Buffalo, New York,
Yeah.
chopped the place out. Uh, Myself and a few of my colleagues traveled to Buffalo couple of days after it happened, and we stood in solidarity with the community, and we were passing out food and whatever they needed us to do, we could do it. And there was a big gathering in front of the store, and um, one of the people that was organizing was saying, "Hey, would you say a few words?" So I said a few words and didn't know it. There's a bunch of TV cameras around. And just a snippet of what I said got from the news, and what I said was this: that people say the guy who did this was radicalized online. Well, listen, my children won't be radicalized online because I refuse to allow them to be fertile grounds for that radicalization. They understand seeds kind of in sand don't grow. Jesus said that in the Bible. Take note, like this in the last place. And so I want my children's minds to be sand. You can't radicalize them because I'm going to teach them to be anti-racist from the beginning. I'm going to tell them the true history of America from the beginning. It's not going to be controversial. At my house, you're welcome to come to my house on Thanksgiving and find out what my children feel about Thanksgiving. First of all, we don't celebrate it. That's Indigenous Peoples Day. We don't celebrate Columbus Day. That's Indigenous Peoples Day. So we have these conversations in my house. Um, and there was a pastor. Two of my daughters are practicing Christians because I'm divorced from their mother, and their mother's Christian. So they practice Christianity with their mother. And my oldest daughter told me, she said, Daddy, they were talking about trans people at church, and I don't like that. Do that? See how quick she said, nope, you're not indoctrinating me into your transphobia, because I make sure that my children have the information, the reality of the world. A young black child, a young brown child, a young indigenous child in this country knows about racism. If you hide it from your white children, you're doing them a disservice, because These
Yeah.
other children know about it from experiencing it, and your children are protected by the bubble of privilege. So to answer your question, I said all that to say this: how did your parents become radicalized into MAGA? Because the ground was quite fertile. They already bought into part of it. They were already
Yeah.
teeter-tottering, and the silent complicity of it all made them perfectly recruitable for the
Mhm.
end goal there.
Yeah, it's been brutal, that relationship with my parents, and I've been open about it, because I think it's important for people to hear what's happening with the MAGA effect or the Trump effect to real families. It's important for people to see that transparency, and I've had discussion, and right now I'm not talking to my parents, and they live probably a mile or two away from my house, and I'm not letting them see my children right now because I'm
But that's
just.
it, right? That's the end. That's the end, though. Not to cut you off, but let's highlight this point. Let's grab this point while it's right in front of our face, so we don't miss it.
Mhm,
If you don't stand up for oppressed communities, eventually you become the oppressed. Because you know
mhm,
who else is not talking? You know who else is not talking to their parents? Who else is not talking to their children? Those families that have been torn apart by the war on drugs. The families,
mhm,
families that have been torn apart by the white supremacy of this country. The families of the justice system that has disproportionately locked up black and brown people since the dawn of time. The families that have been ripped apart by white supremacy while white families stayed quiet and allow it to happen, while 22% of Black America lives in poverty and only 9% of white America lives in poverty, what happens is these families are torn apart. And by us being silent, by us not speaking out en masse, by us not saying enough is enough, now that white supremacy has started tearing white families apart. And now white people are seeing it. And that is the whole point. First, they came for the communists, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the
mhm.
socialists, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a socialist. And then they came for the gays, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a gay. But then they came for me, and nobody was left to speak up for them.
Right. And that's and it's important for people like you, and it's important for people like me that have that white that are white, right? This is almost kind of a white on white crime, in my opinion. It's just so important for people to speak out. If you are a white man specifically, it's so important for our country to hear from you that enough is enough. That it is this fascism is fueled by racism. It is fueled by division. That
Yeah.
this whole chaos mess doesn't have to be so chaotic. We could end it overnight if we just realize that when Trump brings up crime, when Trump brings up immigration, he is lying about the statistics to divide us and
Mhm.
to bring up his superiority policies. And I it's just.
Mark, if I
Mm,
can interject, one point I've said to people in conversations and internet comments, um, that in a way one of the great tragedies is that I'm not taken advantage of per se by MAGA or by the Trump movement or what he does. I'm fairly well to do. I've got money. This shit doesn't bother me.
right.
You're in good shape. This shit doesn't bother you in terms of the personal effect. When you look at what this is doing to and by the way, I don't have to, and you don't. And what Jolly's saying is, I don't have to compromise my morals. I don't compromise my ethics. I I'm here at work. Everybody at work knows how I feel about it. I don't ever have to keep quiet. They are MAGA is the tragedy is MAGA is the one that is suffering for this. Now they seem to revel in a lot of the shit that happens, but the reality is they have to twist themselves into knots to justify this stuff. They have to sacrifice their morals if they've got them, or ethics if they've got them, in order to justify what this man is doing to the
Mhm,
country. They're the ones doing it. I'm not doing it.
right.
So, I just characterize it that way for them, so that maybe they could see that this is not just hurting me, it's or hurting liberals or hurting immigrants or whatever the fuck a marginalized community that this guy's targeting. He is causing them to twist themselves into knots, trying to defend the indefensible. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
Because they avoid telling the truth, right? So the truth is, it was never about grocery prices or egg prices or
No.
any other deflation. It was always about just hate the person I hate. And you brought up my TED talk, and the point I was trying to convey in that TED talk was never think that Donald Trump ushered in white supremacy. white supremacy ushered in Donald Trump,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
this idea that and this idea that when that glorious day comes and we all get to read the big beautiful obituary,
Yeah.
the idea that that'll be the end of this
It's not over.
is where everybody's missing the fucking thing.
Mhm.
This has been an ongoing thing in America. Donald Trump just said, as I said in my TED talk, he just used the language they wanted to hear and they got it around and threw their votes at him. You talk about twisting themselves in a pretzel because they have to do that lest they say the quiet part out loud, which
Yeah.
we just watched Stephen Miller do in
Over
brilliant
and
fashion on
over.
CNN. Stephen
Mhm.
Miller said on CNN he has plenary authority, which means ultimate authority, ultimate
Mm-hmm.
power. And then he froze because he
He
realized,
sh- he
yeah,
he shut down. The
yeah,
computer
Yes,
shut
yes, I
down.
did see that.
He needed a reboot.
because he was like, well, shit, how do I back out of this the way that my hairline backed out of existing? And so, and he couldn't find a way. So they needed
That guy
technical
is the
difficulty.
embodiment of evil. He is the worst.
Listen, the guy's 4 foot fucking 10, got a receding hairline. If there was a genetic lottery, he's lost all of it. And
Mm-hmm.
so he's mad. And so you're the supreme race. You're
Yeah.
the supreme genes here, bro. Listen, stop. I guess I
So,
would
so
be
you,
mad too if I was that ugly and short and bald. But I mean, the
you,
problem is real life people are affected by it, you
yeah,
know?
and
Uh-huh.
I just want
Yeah.
to say again, Jolly, you are a good-looking ginger.
Yeah, brother.
Especially when you do that little hair flip. You know, you got that miniature Conan O'Brien
Damn
hair
right.
flip.
Damn right.
It's
Miniature
beautiful.
Conan O'Brien.
You are making us ginger proud out there.
Hell
Yeah.
But
yeah, brother.
you brought up food prices, you know, like
Yeah.
but like food prices aren't going down, you know, and I moved down here to Florida and I'm in Manatee County. It's a little bit south of Tampa. It's a little community called Parish, Florida. Okay. And it is 70% red, I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
Super MAGA town. My neighbor across the street is a QAnon supporter. You know,
Oh, great.
flags half staff during Charlie Kirk murder, all that stuff. So that's what I'm dealing with, right? But we have to deal with all this. Plus, we have in inflation. We have higher grocery prices. We have higher insurance. Our house prices are crashing right now. The economy is awful. You know, we can sit there and say the stock market. We can play the up and down game on the stock market, but that's not real life. The real life is people are struggling, and especially lower class people are struggling.
Yeah, I mean, listen, here's the fact of the matter. Like I said, it was never about the economy. That's always the argument they use. If you go as far back as the secession of the southern states, well, first of all, in South Carolina's letter that was labeled the Articles of Causes of Secession, they made it clear that this was their property, talking about people, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
and that it was contractually obligated in the Constitution because it was that their property was to be returned to from them if left. But if you look at the debates that were had, not the articles because of the concession, but the debates that were had, that's how they did it. Well, economy, well, job market. And it's like, dude, you're talking about enslaving people, you fuck. Right.
Mm,
Yeah.
So, like, this is always the argument. This is always, um, they do two things. They talk about money and children. That's how bigots operate. I often tell people the difference between a bigot and a turret is that one just repeats what they hear around them, has a small brain and no original thought, and the other one's a bird. So like they don't have new ideas. This is
no.
just so they're
Yeah.
just recycling it, and they recycle two things: money, children, money, children, money, children. We're going to lower prices and save the kids.
Yep.
How do we do that? Oh, no problem. We ban trans people from legally existing.
Yeah.
We kick everybody out of the country who's not white,
Yeah.
and then we make it illegal to talk about black people, and then the prices will go down and our children will be safe, right? So, like, none of that's logical.
Mm,
So, like, when you talk, Chris, about twisting themselves in pretzels, it's because and what I'm about to say is the most important thing I've said today. When the door closes and the only people that are in the room are white people, all that facade goes away.
Yeah.
There's no pretzels. There's no
Yeah.
pretzels. There's just straight truth. And I promise, if I can't do it because I'm not anonymous, but send a white person in a room full of other white people that are MAGA or conservative Republicans this day and age
Yeah.
with a fucking hidden camera. They're not going to be talking about the economy. I promise you.
Yeah.
My mom and your mom and everybody's mama, they're not going to be talking about the economy about when that door closes. They're going to be talking about how it's sick, all these people, all these trans people, and how these gay
Yeah.
people are ruining America, and it's against God, and how these
Yep.
immigrants are trying to infiltrate their country and steal their country from them,
Mhm.
and they're murdering and they're killing. The whole language changes. This pretzel twisting is when you're trying to get the general public to buy your bullshit.
Yes, agreed.
Yep.
Very, yeah. I mean, that's a very strong point, and it doesn't make sense, and that's why we're in the mess we're in. That's why we allow a dictator to put these crazy tariffs on things, and it doesn't make any sense. First he says he's going to collect all this money and he's going to send it back out, and then he says he's going to pay off the national debt with it. Like
No,
none of
no, he
this
was going to
makes
do
sense.
that, Mark, and then he's using the money to grease the right-wing president of Argentina,
Right.
who has basically captured our soybean industry because, well, we tariffed ourselves right out of the business, so he can sell them to China. It's the most perverse thing I've ever heard in the history of international commerce that we can't sell China, our largest buyer, our soybeans. So they go to Argentina, but Argentina is about to default, and the country's going to go under. So to prop them up, we give them money from the tariffs we're collecting from the soybeans we're not selling.
Yep.
So obviously the tariffs are just our
By the way,
general pot of money.
Right.
well, two important notes. Those are tariffs are directly out of our pockets. Americans pay that.
Of course.
Let's never forget Americans pay that. And then
Yeah.
Yeah.
number two,
Well,
I
yeah, I
enter.
mean, you would wish, of course, right? I mean, that makes sense to us three here, but there's a lot of people that think
They
tariffs
still
aren't
think.
coming from our pocket.
They
They
still
Yeah,
are
think.
yeah,
directly
yeah,
coming from our pocket.
yeah, 100%. There was a viral video I did with Walter Masterson just before the election. It got, I don't know, it made its rounds around every fucking platform. Easily 100 million views this video had. And Walter had walked up to a guy at a MAGA rally with a MAGA hat on who was selling T-shirts. He was like, "Hey, let's talk about tariffs. You sell T-shirts. What about when there's tariffs?" And they did some back and forth. And he called me over jollies, tell this guy about tariffs. And in a matter of about 45 seconds, this guy went from, no, 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 they pay the tariffs to, oh shit, we pay the tariffs. It was really
Mm.
funny to watch. That's why the video
Yeah.
was so viral because it was so quickly explained to him. But I'd say another video I had that I did, it was right after the election, actually. So Donald Trump had already won the election, and we were doing some shit at the Senate. I forgot what we were doing. But and there was a guy, he was the president of the Farmers Association of America, or some big ass organization for farmers. And this guy's been farming for 35 years. I'm like, I want to interview that dude. Now this is like last November or whatever. So I pulled dude aside. I'm like, hey man, tell me what's going to happen to farmers. What's your predictions? You can go watch the videos on the internet and it's forever. Guy says to me, well, we're going to lose the soybean market.
Mm,
I said, really? He goes, yeah, soybeans are donezo. And he tells me
Yeah.
all the reasons. He tells me all the reasons why. I said, well, who's going to buy all the soybeans? He goes, well, our biggest exporter of soybeans is China. They're going to stop buying our shit. So what they're going to do is they're going to South America and get it. This guy told me this 12 months ago.
wow. Nailed it.
So what I'm saying is, if we just listen to the motherfuckers who know what the fuck they're talking about,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
if we would have listened to black people in 1960, if we would listen to experts in their field now, if we would listen to people that know what they're talking about, instead of this facade of a failed businessman wannabe fucking, reality
Mm-hmm.
TV star of a
Mm-hmm.
fucking this guy, his own fucking dad didn't like him. That's why he's fucking trying so hard. He's still trying to impress his dad. I
Yeah.
don't think he knows the
Right.
dude's dead. And fucking this guy has failed at everything he's ever done.
Correct.
His only real estate success was through mafia ties and
Yeah.
bullying people into fucking contracts through mafia ties. He inherited that from his father. Every business he's ever ran has been a fucking failure. His children are fucking nepo babies, like he was fucking nepo babies. He's stolen everything he has from other people and now the government. And we listen to him rather than the motherfuckers that know what they're talking about. 12 months ago, this man stood in front of me on camera and said the soybean market will be in South America. And now it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned false information, fake information, right? And I'm running down here in District 16 in Florida, and it's in the heart of MAGA country. And I want to give you a little piece of good news, okay, that I discovered the other day, and this might give you just a little bit of hope, Jolly. And I know you're out there on the front lines and you're seeing a lot of negativity. And again, I want to thank you for everything that you're doing out there. What you're doing and showing the rest of the world is just as important or more important than what anybody in Congress is doing right now. And I want to thank you for that. But anyway, this is just a little bit of a hope, right? My daughter, and this is a true story. My daughter talked to me, and she knows that I'm a Democrat, right? And that's hard for her because kids wear MAGA shirts to school, Jolly. They wear MAGA shirts to school, like Nazi little cults they are, you know?
It really
And
is.
so anyway, long story short, my daughter was in school. Some MAGA boys were talking to her and her friends, and they were talking about how great Trump is and he's the GOAT. And they're saying things that normal, 13-year-old boys shouldn't be saying about politicians.
Yeah.
And so anyway, they left. And my daughter's teacher pulled her to the side. And I'm here in Parrish, Florida. My daughter's teacher pulled her to the side and said, listen, you don't have to listen to those guys. They don't know what they're talking about. And then she explained what was really going on, about fear mongering, that immigration, a lot of that is just fear mongering. The crime statistics, a lot of that is just fear mongering, that we don't need troops on our streets to take care of civil issues. That's just unbelievable in America today. But anyway, she explained that to my daughter. And my daughter left the room and she was just a little bit more knowledgeable when she left, right? And she told me that story. And it's really hard to find stories like that in such a red area that I'm in, and that I have support when I send my daughter to school when I think they're all MAGA aligned. So anyway, that's just a little bit of
No,
hope out there.
and it's good. It's good. It's good that that's happening because there are blue dots in red areas. And typically, when you find some blue dots, it's people that read books. And teachers typically read books and are educated.
Mm-hmm.
I always laugh when they say, or people go to college and become liberal. It's not because they're being indoctrinated, dumbass. They're reading books. The difference between being a conservative
Right.
and a liberal these days, and by the way, I'm not a liberal. Liberals are too conservative for me. I'm a leftist. But the difference between a conservative and a liberal is, simply knowledge. Knowledge is powerful. And I'm glad your daughter got that validation. And the
Mhm.
teacher's right. Immigrants do make America great. I want to,
Yeah.
promote
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Love
immigrants
that
make
shirt.
America great. We are a country of immigrants, and
Yep.
I think that with everything that's happening in the world, and I do got to take off, so I'll make this kind of my closing argument. With everything that's happening in America, there's going to be a time eventually where we're going to feel the effects of what ICE is doing, of ripping our communities apart by taking
100%.
immigrants out. And there, these are the people that immigrants are the backbone of this country. If you don't believe that, I don't care. If you don't know that, I don't care. It's a fact. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to say this very particularly to ICE. You will not be forgiven. You are traitors. I'm giving you. This is your chance to quit your job. I don't care how much money you are making. I don't care how much money they give you. You quit now because you will forever be remembered in history as the Gestapo of our generation. What
Yep.
you're doing is embarrassing. What you're doing is inhumane. What you're doing is gross. You're ripping mothers away from their children, fathers away from workplaces, mothers away from workplaces, parents and families away from courthouses that are doing it legally. Nothing you're doing is contributing to society. You're a stain. You're an embarrassment. Nobody likes you. You're disgusting. Fuck ICE forever. I appreciate you
Cheers
guys
to
having
that.
me on. I got to fucking dip.
Thank you.
Keep
I
doing
Okay.
what
love
you're
what you're
doing.
doing out there, Jolly. Much respect. Love what you're doing.
Think.
Keep it up, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so
Thank you,
much.
Jolly.
Appreciate you. Have a good
Peace.
one.
You too.
See you. All right, man.
Woo!
There you go.
That was awesome, huh?
Yeah. Well, listen, man.
Hearing it from Jim.
He's a great speaker, Mark. He's been around. He's been fighting this fight for several years now. So to hear from him, a guy who's given a TED talk, a guy who feels passionately about this, is willing to go out there and stake his name on it, about fighting against white supremacy, fighting against this fascist regime. Dude, it's a pleasure to have that guy on here, and we could all learn a lot.
Yeah, super impressed. Super impressed.
It was so awesome having Jolly Good Ginger with us on Dad Bods and Bad Attitudes today. Our first very special guest, and I think it was a rousing success. What do you think, Mark?
Awesome. Again, did I geek out too much? I
Did
mean,
you
he
geek
was
out? You geeked out a little bit, man. But it's what we're doing right now is we're trying to build community. He's done that. We're trying to tap into his community and the audience that he's reached over the years. He's done a great job. So I don't think there's any shame in geeking out or fanboying a little bit on the first go round. So maybe we'll be fortunate enough to have him again in the future during
yes.
your campaign. And at that point, I expect you to fully contain yourself and be a professional. Okay.
All right, we'll do.
And cool. So on that note, we'll wrap up this episode of Dad Bods and Bad Attitudes. Thank you for joining us. Keep fighting. Keep hope alive. Peace.